In this video, we're going to be looking at a basic Webpack setup for your application. Webpack can be a headache to configure, and a lot of people skip setting it up entirely. Either they will use a template that's already created for them from GitHub or somewhere else, or they'll use something like Create React App that already has things configured for you, or people just join a professional project that's already created within their team and they don't actually have to deal with Webpack. Maybe they have that person on their team that knows Webpack well enough and will set it up for them. So hopefully we can get a leg up on the rest of the JavaScript world and get a decent understanding of how Webpack works, how to set it up, and what it can do for us. So in this video, we're going to be using some what I think are basic Webpack plugins as part of our setup. We'll use HTML Webpack, Clean Webpack, Webpack Dev Server, and then a CSS loader for Webpack. Let's take a look at our project, which is completely blank. And what we'll do to start here is just run npm init. And then once we have that done, we can npm install, and we'll save dev with Webpack and Webpack CLI. And while that's working away, we can go grab this very basic Webpack config. And then we can go ahead in here and create our Webpack config.js file and just drop that config right in here. Okay, so now we have Webpack installed and our basic Webpack config file. And basically what is happening here is we have our entry point, which is the JavaScript file that Webpack will be reading from. And the output is where Webpack will be bundling this file or the many files that this index.js could be referencing or including. And then it's going to drop it into this dist folder, and it's going to drop it into a file called bundle.js. So this index file could reference hundreds or thousands of JavaScript files. And based on this setup right here, any file that's referenced from this index.js file, it'll be bundled up into this bundle.js, and it'll just make a gigantic JavaScript file for us. So what we have to do now is create this source file. So let's go ahead and actually create a directory first. And then within that directory, we can create our index.js file. And in here, we'll just do something very basic. We'll just log something into the console. Okay, we'll get that saved up. And now what we can do is add a script in here. So we'll add a build script. And this is just going to run Webpack. Since we have Webpack and Webpack CLI created and installed for us, in our package, we'll just be able to run the Webpack command. And then it will package everything up and put it into this dist folder. So let's go ahead and run npm build. And once that is done, we can see this dist folder and the bundle file. And we can see at the end here that it has bundled our JavaScript that we care about. It did give us this warning down here that the mode option has not been set. And so it falls back to production. That's why it has bundled all this JavaScript onto one line of code, because it's assuming that we're creating a production build. And so it's minifying the JavaScript here. So the browser will load our JavaScript in faster than it normally would. So let's fix this warning. We actually only care about doing development for the purpose of this video. So we can go ahead and add in mode, and we can call it development. We'll save that and run it again, and we'll see the difference here. First, we don't see a warning. And second, if we open up our bundle file, we now see that it's not minified anymore. So we can still see our console log down here. And a bunch of this other stuff is stuff that Webpack is kind of doing for us to make our lives easier, stuff that we don't have to worry about. But we can see our code at the bottom. That's what we care about. Okay, so now that we have this bundled JavaScript file, what do we do with it? Well, we need to load it in with some HTML file. And we could just create an HTML file for our own purposes. What can be helpful is to use the HTML Webpack plugin. So this will handle a few things for us. let's just jump right into it, and then we can talk about what are the advantages of it. So we can just save this as a development dependency, HTML Webpack plugin. And once we do that, then we'll also want to update our Webpack config. So we'll be adding a line here, which is going to be importing the plugin right here. And then we'll be adding a plugin into our Webpack config. And this will be an array of plugins. And this will be new HTML5 Webpack plugin, just like that. And we won't be passing any options to it to start. After a second, we can look at the options, what they would be, and then go from there. So now if we go ahead and run build again, then if we go into our dist folder, then we'll see this index.html file that was created. And this is where it's going to be loading in our bundle.js file. So this gives us a way to load our bundle, the actual JavaScript that we've created. It gives us an HTML page to open up and a way for us to not have to create our own HTML page if we don't want to. It'll just automatically inject this script in at the bottom. So now how do we view it? Well, we just have to open up this index.html page in the browser. So we've got something like that here, and it's going to be in the dist folder. So let's load this up. And if we look in the console, we can see the hello 123. Okay. Now, if we want to go ahead and update this, let's say we want now to just add more numbers, get sophisticated here. Anytime we add changes or we make changes to this file, or really any of our JavaScript files, we're going to have to run this build again. And if we don't run the build, we can refresh the page, and it's going to be the same. So now if we run the build, then it's going to show this new value in our bundle file, and then we can go ahead here and refresh the page, and we'll see this new update. Now that's kind of annoying to go through that process of building and refreshing and that whole thing every time. So we're going to add a little bit, we're going to add another plugin. So we've got our HTML Webpack plugin, and we can come back to this later and look at some options we can add in here. But let's go ahead and look at our Webpack dev server. And what we'll add in here is similar to what we've done before. We'll be save dev, Webpack dev server. So let's install this. And basically this will start up an HTML file that will then be constantly reloading anytime we make changes to this index.js file. So we'll go ahead and wait for this to finish installing. And now that this is done installing, we can add in a new script into this file here, into our package.json. And this can be start dev. And we're just going to do Webpack dev server. We can save that up, and then we also want to add something in here, which is going to be dev server, and we're going to add a new object, and this is going to say, whoops, this will say open, and this will be true. So anytime we start our Webpack dev server, it's going to open a window in our browser, and that will just make it so we don't have to navigate there ourselves. Okay, so we've got the dev server set up in our Webpack config file, although you actually don't even need this for basic setup. We have a script set up in our package.json, and then we installed Webpack dev server on the command line. So now if we go ahead and npm run start dev, which is the new script that we created, it's now going to open it up in the browser for us. And then if we open up our console, we can see this updated version of our console log. Now, where we really will see the benefits is if we got rid of this, if we just said like hello world here. Now, you can see that it's automatically compiling in the console down here. And then you can see that it just said hello world right here. So if we move quickly and jump over, we can see the page actually refreshing automatically. So this is kind of nice. We don't have to run any extra commands or refresh the page or anything like that. This is just going to happen for us. So now we've got the HTML plugin set up. We have Webpack Dev Server set up. Let's say we are building, let's say maybe for production, or we're not using Webpack Dev Server. Say we are doing npm run build, and it's going to make these new files in here in dist, in our dist folder. One thing that we can do here with the HTML file is in our Webpack config, we can add settings into this HTML Webpack plugin. And what we can do is add a template file. And this is going to allow us to specify some contents of the HTML file that we're building from. And so we'll have this template, and we can just kind of pull it in from here, and we'll make this an HTML file. So we'll do index.html. And now if we go ahead and create this index.html, then we can do something here. And now maybe we can add something in this body. We can do anything we want here. So now when it builds this this HTML file, right now, let's say it just has this script in the body. Now, since we've added this template file, we can add in like a div with my class in here. And this is just some HTML. Okay, so now that we've added in some HTML here, the Webpack HTML plugin is going to take this index.html file, and then it's going to build the bundled JS into this file. Okay, so let's just go ahead and run it and see how this looks. So you can see exactly what I'm talking about. It'll take this file, and now it's injected this in here. Okay, so it's using that previous file as a template to create this bundled file. So if we wanted to change the title, then if we run our build command again, we go back here, we see the changed title. Okay. Another option that we can add here is the file name. So this is the output file of our HTML Webpack plugin. So if we wanted to change this to be, let's say in here, we have our output, and that's going to be, let's say it's new.html. Okay, and we can save that. And actually we want to make sure that this is actually going to save it into our output path no matter what. So we don't need to specify anything besides the actual file name. Okay, so we don't need to specify a directory or anything like that. So now if we run this build and we refresh this, I used the wrong key here. Okay, so this is going to be file name. Just like I said, there are a lot of tricky configuration stuff within, a lot of tricky configuration things that you have to get right with Webpack. So if we run this, now it's going to create this new.html. Okay, and this is where we see the usage and the advantage of the Webpack Clean plugin. Is now I just decided to change one thing within my Webpack config, and now I've got kind of this extra stuff sitting around in my distribution folder. So to fix this up, we can use our Webpack Clean plugin. And what this is going to do is this is going to clear everything out of the distribution folder that we've created. So we don't have to worry about clearing things out if we change the name of the file, or if we change it back or change it to some other name. We don't need to worry about clearing out these old files from our distribution folder. So what we're going to do is require this plugin here in our Webpack config. And then we're going to add the plugin into our plugins list. And it's going to be Clean Webpack plugin. Okay, and then once this is done, then we can run our build again, and now we can see it is going to just wipe all that out. So it wiped everything out. It only gave us the new .html that we want. Now if we were to change this file name again, change it back to index.html and run this build, then it's going to get rid of the new and just have index.html. We could do the same thing with the bundle file for with our JavaScript bundled file. If we wanted to call this new bundled file, we can get crazy with it. And then this is going to be my file, something like that. Now, because of the clean plugin that we have, it's going to get rid of those old files and it's only going to have our new files. Okay, now we can get rid of this. We don't actually want those things. And we can move this one back to bundle.js. And if we build now, then it'll clean up for us. Okay, so that is the Webpack Clean plugin. That is especially helpful for when we are building for production if we're not using our dev server, because it will get rid of all the extra files that we have. But other than that, we can just use our dev server and it's just going to open up right here for us. And we've got our HTML template that we created. This one's gone. This is the template that we had. So we can say this is our HTML source template. Okay, anytime we save that, then it's going to be automatically updating here. We can update the title here if we want. So we'll see the updated title. We can also update the title in the config file. So with our HTML Webpack plugin, we can also say title is overwritten title. Okay, and then that should overwrite it. And since we're making changes into the Webpack config file, anytime we make a change within Webpack config, we're going to need to restart Webpack dev server. Otherwise, it's only going to pick up changes from this actual source folder. But if we make a change there, then we restart the dev server, then it should, oh, it's still taking the updated title. So let's see if we can get that title to work for us. If we get rid of that. Okay, let's take a look at these title, the title used for the generated HTML document, string default Webpack app. Okay, so it's pulling something in there apparently. And I think it's gonna pull in a title from this config so long as it's not using a template. Okay, so if it's using a template, then it'll just take the title from the actual HTML. But if you're not using a template, then you can add in the title there. Okay, so we're pretty much in the clear here. One last thing we wanted to do was add in the CSS loader. And this can be helpful if you want to import CSS into your JavaScript files, or really in any files that you're bundling here. So what we'll do is we'll install the CSS loader. Again, this is going to be pretty straightforward. We'll just open up a new terminal so we don't have to get rid of that. And then once we install that, then we're going to add this module key into our Webpack config file. So we'll jump over to our Webpack config. We don't have the module key in here yet. And so what we'll go ahead and do is add it in. And it's going to add, this is where we're going to add rules for several of our different loaders. If you're using React, you'll probably have a JSX loader, and maybe you'll have a Babel loader, several other loaders. Loaders are things that allow Webpack to read a certain kind of file and then load that certain kind of file and bundle it into your your Webpack bundle. So a very, very basic Webpack application will have the style loader and the CSS loader. And we probably actually want to install the style loader as well. And we can save our Webpack config file. And once that is saved and this gets installed, then we can also create a style.css file in here. And let's just go ahead and say for all elements, we'll have the color be red. Okay, so we still have our dev server running, and we can look back at our application here. You can see the style has not applied. But if we go into our index.js file, and if we do that import that we mentioned, style.css, cannot resolve style.css, so we're going to have to do it from the same directory. Okay, so actually what happened here is that we updated our Webpack config and we didn't restart our server. So let's go ahead and restart it so that the configuration changes can take place. And now we'll actually see the CSS is loaded in here. So you see there's no issues here. It's properly loading in our CSS. It's bundling it in here. If we looked at if we had our distribution stuff here, we could probably see the style that's loaded into our application. If we were to run this, do npm run build, then we can see it there. But we can see this running on our Webpack dev server. If we were to update this style.css as well, let's say we're going to do this as green, it's going to be updating that live as well. So this is our basic Webpack configuration, a starter for any application that you might want to use. We have CSS loading in, we have HTML set up with a template to start from. We have our JavaScript that's importing our CSS and then being loaded into the HTML. We have a Webpack dev server, and then it's also cleaning out the distribution folder anytime we actually want to build files into our bundle. So hopefully this helps you get started with Webpack and gives you kind of a groundwork for using Webpack in your projects. And we will see you in the next video.